All right, welcome back. Today we're going to start the first part of the last chapter, chapter 7, and we will be talking here about the traffic control and analysis of signalized intersection. So we all know that conflicting traffic movements will actually make roadway intersections the main source of the greatest concern to any traffic engineers. If there was, if the concept of traffic intersections is not there, the life of a traffic engineer would be much easier. But we can't afford having a transportation system without having an intersection. So intersections again are major source of crashes, as we all know, and vehicle delays as well. So movements of traffic sometimes will be continuous until we reach an intersection. You will be stopped by mainly a traffic signal or a stop sign or a yield sign, and also lots of accidents happens also at the intersection. Therefore, again, most of the concerns happens at signalized intersections or controlled intersection by a yield sign or a stop sign. Although this is the major concern, but also most of the roadway intersections are not signalized due to the low volume traffic that we see, and and also due to the adequate side distance that we have in most of the small neighborhood intersections. And therefore, again, at some point, any of these unsignalized intersections, once the traffic volume or the crash frequency start to increase, or the severity of the crash that happen at any of these unsignalized intersections and start to increase, then that can warrant or that can satisfy the need of having to install a traffic signal. So speaking of traffic signals, what are some of the major advantages of having a traffic signal? Those are again some of the bullet points here related to the advantages of having those signals. So the first one is potentially, if it's designed right, we are actually going to end up having potential reduction of some of the types of crashes. Mainly, if we have a traffic signal that's going to reduce the amount of angle crashes. To be more particular. Also, it can provide provisions for pedestrians to cross the street safely. If there is no traffic signals, pedestrians now will tend to make their own decisions when to cross the intersection, and that again, that's unsafe decision at some cases. That's why again having a traffic signal is going to provide such provisions for pedestrians to cross the intersection safely. Having a traffic signal also is gonna provide provisions for side street vehicles to enter the traffic stream. Sometimes, if we have an intersection that we have a major roadway and we have a minor roadway, and sometimes again traffic will be piled up at the minor street, and those traffic wants to join the major street, and if there is no traffic signals, especially the major road is going to be highly trafficked by a lot of traffic volume, then it's going to be hard for those couple trucks to join this stream, and therefore having a traffic signal here is going to provide again a side street vehicles to enter the traffic stream. Having a traffic signal also can provide provisions for progressive flow of traffic at any single system corridor. It also can be providing a possible improvements in capacity. It can improve capacity as well as reduce the amount of traffic delay. All these advantages they are we can gain if there is a truly there is a need for a traffic signal at that location. But if there was no need for a traffic signal at that location, or if it's designed poorly, meaning that the green line on the green time versus the red time is not done in the right way, then we may end up actually having disadvantages of having traffic signals. So any poorly timed signal or one that is actually not justified, again, we're going to end up with those unnecessary disadvantages. First of all, we can have an increased vehicle delay, believe it or not, having a bad traffic signal location or timing. It also can increase, although again, it can the advantages, as I just mentioned, it can reduce some crashes, especially angle crashes, but also if it's not done at the right location, it can increase rear end crashes. Can also cause disruption of for traffic progression at certain location, and in some cases also it's encouraging the use of routes that's not intended for through traffic. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is such routes are gonna go through residential neighborhoods. So people they know that they're gonna go through a certain intersection, and that intersection has a traffic signal. They're gonna be stuck there for a couple minutes, and instead they are gonna end up going to minor residential neighborhoods that they are not designed to handle that much traffic volume, and that's again an unintended disadvantage of having a traffic signal. How about the cost? The cost of having a traffic signal is huge, and that's why we need really to have a considerable amount of consideration and studying to justify the need of having a traffic signal, because a basic signal installation just for one leg, if it's a four-legged intersection, just for one leg to have a traffic signal there is $100,000. Therefore, the decision really to install a traffic signal must be weighed and studied carefully, because really now by the time you put all the traffic signal at the four locations, as well as the box, which is the controller on one of the four corners of this intersection, is we're talking at least a $500,000 investment per intersection if we really want to get it signalized. So MUTCD, which is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Solution, traffic control devices, they came up with warrants, or actually 8 warrants or 8 factors that actually is gonna justify the need to include a traffic signal at that location. We're gonna again, those are 8 warrants. They are based on whether we have enough vehicle volumes, pedestrian volumes, school crossings, school coordination, how much do we have a lot of crashes at that location to trigger the need of having a traffic signal. We're not going to go through all the warrants here details. We're going to keep that to CNG 4351, but just to keep you informed that there is warrants there that we have to satisfy at least one of the 8 to justify the need of having a traffic signal at any intersection. Speak of an intersection. So how can we, there's some definitions here that we need to be aware of before we get going with in this chapter. The first definition here is the how can I identify or define an intersection. Intersection or at grade is actually at grade at the same level crossing of 2 or more roadways. Most of the time it's a four-legged intersection, but sometimes we may have actually a fifth roadway, and therefore it's a five-leg intersection. While an approach, this is actually now it's a segment of the roadway entering the intersection. It actually consists of a lane or group of lanes through which the vehicles enter the intersection. And let me show you here this picture so you can understand. So the whole picture here, this is the full picture, is an intersection. Within an intersection, we have multiple approaches. So if I have a four-legged intersection, each leg is considered an approach. So for example, approach one, it includes again either one lane or groups of lanes, as you could see here. So we have approach one, we have approach two, approach three, and approach four. So again, the definition is it consists of a lane, only one lane, or a group of lanes through which the vehicles enter the intersection. What do I mean by a lane group? So it can be one lane or it can be a lane group. So a lane group is actually an individual lane, or it can be multiple lanes which are grouped based on the allowed movement. So at left, so if I have one lane to the left or two lanes to the left or three lanes to the left, this is gonna be considered as a lane group. And then if I have two through lanes, this is another group. If I have a designated right turn, that's a third group. So again, back to this picture. For example, let's study approach one. Approach one, it has total of 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes. But how many lane groups? Actually, I have 3 lane groups. So two lanes here, lane 2 and 3, they are going through. So that's one group, and there is a designated left turn, and that's a second group by itself. Again, so the group can have one lane, 2 lanes, or 3 lanes, and I have designated turn bay for right lane here. That's a third group. Going to approach two, for example, here I have left turn, that's one group by itself, and one lane that serves through and right lane, so that's another group. Group three, I have one lane going through the intersection, going through, and that's one group by itself. I have a designated left turn, that's another group. I have one lane here that serve going through and right lane, so that's a third group. For approach 4, I have one lane that's designated for through and right lane, so that's one group by itself, and I have another lane for through and left turn, that's another group. So in summary, as I said again, for example, approach 1, this is just a summary of what I just mentioned. I have a lane for exclusive use of left turns, and I had a lane for exclusive right turns, and I had two lanes for exclusive through. So really, this is why, again, we have 1, 2, and 3 different groups under approach 1. For approach 2, again, it consists of share through right turn lane, and that's one group by itself, as well as an exclusive left lane, which is again that's approach 2, right right here, two groups. For approach 3, like again similar to approach 1, but again the right turns share the outside lane with the through movements, and approach 4 similar to approach 2 as well, but the inside lane is shared through the left lane. So with that, again, this is just a very brief summary of some of the definition here. So now we understand that any intersection, so intersection is, again, it can be, and we have 4-leg intersection or 5-leg or even more. Approach consists of a lane or lane groups of lanes through which the vehicles enter the intersection. And a lane group, it can be an individual lane or multiple lanes, which are grouped based on the allowed movement, whether it's left, through, or right lane. Again, with that, again, we finished the very brief introduction of this chapter, and next time we'll be talking more about the components of any signal cycle lane. Thank you so much.